Just a few weeks after Sega's most disappointing announcement ever, Sega has gone full circle and put out something that's truly exciting. Slated to be... Oh gosh, you guys gotta be quiet. Gotta be quiet. Slated to be released in December of this year is the SEGA Astro City Mini, a collection of 36 different classic Sega arcade games on a tiny version of one of Sega's most iconic Japanese arcade cabinets, the Astro City. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have yet another HDMI ready plug-and-play retro mini console to steal your money and take over your living room. And Sega is moving forward with this product fast. In fact, it's already on sale for pre-order on Amazon Japan for roughly $120, and it ships to the US, though people are reporting difficulty getting the optional $25 controllers to ship to the US as well, and I can see that being a deal breaker for a lot of people. Also, unlike the Sega Genesis Classic and the Game Gear Micro, this is not being developed by M2 or by Sega themselves, but it's rather being handled by a subsidiary of Sega Sammy called Sega Toys. Sega Toys is primarily known for making capsule toys, those tiny figurines that can be purchased out of a vending machine. But in the US, oddly enough, they're mostly known for making a $189 miniature planetarium. That's cool, and a little weird. The fact that M2 wouldn't be involved in the production was confirmed on Twitter by Yosuke Okunari himself. Yosuke Okunari is a creative producer at Sega behind many famous games, such as the Panzer Dragoon series, and he's currently in charge of the Sega Ages project, which is done in collaboration with M2, so it's safe to say that his word is final. For many, this is disappointing news, because M2 is known for both their quality emulation jobs and great attention to detail. Can Sega Toys achieve what M2 achieved with the Sega Genesis Classic? We'll have to wait and see. Either way, this is really big news. While there's no doubt a lot of nostalgia for Sega's home console games and brands, the truth is that Sega was never really much of a home console gaming company to begin with. And while Sonic and Alex Kidd always played second fiddle to Mario and Zelda, there is no question that from the mid-80s all the way through to the 90s, that no one was as innovative or as exciting as Sega at the arcades.
That's all fine and good, dude, but what's an Astro City?
Whoa, I didn't think you were gonna be in this video. Yeah, so an Astro City is the name for a common type of generic arcade cabinet built by Sega starting in the 1990s. You see, way back in 1981, JAMMA, or the Japanese Amusement Machine and Marketing Association, came into existence as a trade association created to solve the common problems of competitors within the arcade game industry. Most of Japan's top arcade owners and game developers maintain delegates in JAMMA, including Capcom, Konami, Taito, Namco, and of course, Sega, among others. One such problem had to do with aging arcade cabinets themselves. Older Japanese arcade games were becoming less profitable over time, and new games were beginning to take their place. However, switching out old arcade games is costly and wasteful. In the 1970s and early 80s, virtually every cabinet had its own unique wiring structure that connected the game's motherboard to its monitor, controls, and an audio output. In addition, cabinets themselves were frequently covered in unique artwork that only applied to that game. This meant that replacing old games with new games, more often than not, involved completely disposing of the cabinet, along with its monitor, controls, and everything else.
What a waste of money!
Exactly. So in 1985, JAMMA solved this problem by agreeing to a new wiring standard for all Japanese arcade cabinets. From 1985 forward, for almost all conventional arcade cabinets that relied on joysticks and buttons, it would now be possible to easily install new PCB game boards without having to alter the wiring to the monitor, speakers, or controls. Want to put a new game in an old cabinet? Thanks to JAMMA, you could now just switch the old game out. Realizing that the JAMMA wiring standard meant that dedicated arcade cabinets were no longer required for a wide range of new games, starting in 1986, Sega took the initiative and started their own line of cheaper, generic cabinets to be sold to arcade owners. They called their cabinet the City model, and it was offered as a cost-effective and aesthetically uniform way for arcades to add and subtract games at will. This was a successful endeavor for SEGA, and over the years they continued to tweak and improve upon the design. And in 1993, alongside the release of the original Virtua Fighter, SEGA put out the Astro City model of arcade cabinet, which has the iconic 6-button layout associated with Virtua Fighter, and the Virtua Stick for the Saturn. But it also has a wider screen and better energy efficiency than older cabinet models. The Astro City became very popular, and they're still all over Japan today, and in the personal game collections of YouTube personalities everywhere. Given its ubiquitousness and popularity, the Astro City cabinet is really a perfect format for a retro mini plug-and-play by SEGA.
But what about the games?
Good question. 36 games are going to be included, but only 10 have been announced so far. Alien Syndrome, Alien Storm, Golden Axe, Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder, Columns 2, Dark Edge, Puzzle and Action, Virtua Fighter, Fantasy Zone, and Altered Beast. 2 of the games included, Revenge of Death Adder and Dark Edge, have never been given a home release, so that's going to be interesting in itself. And as I mentioned before, SEGA Toys is also releasing a conventional 6-button controller to let up to 3 players play on one of these things at the same time.
But isn't Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder 4-player?
It is.
Well, isn't that a problem?
It is, but I guess there's only room for 2 USB ports, so it is what it is, sadly. 3-player maximum may be disappointing, but the actual controls on the unit itself are promising. In order to retain full functionality, SEGA Toys has refrained from shrinking down the joystick and buttons too much. Also, they're promising that they'll include fully functional micro switches in the stick for that authentic arcade experience. And authenticity is apparently what this thing is all about. They've even brought in the original Astro City cabinet designer to make this thing. And it's even going to be made out of the exact same resin that was used to make the original cabinet. Authenticity is such a central focus of the Astro City Mini that it provides a vital clue as to what the full game library will look like. If a game was popular or frequently featured on cabinets such as this, then there's a good chance it's going to be included. However, Astro City cabinets were a 6-button joystick configuration, so we should only expect to see games that are suitable to that arrangement. That means lots of fighting games, shooters, beat-em-ups, puzzle games, and maybe even platformers. And that seems to be what we have here with the Astro City Mini so far. However, this attention to detail and authenticity also implies that we won't see any games that had special cabinets or controller configurations. Therefore, don't expect to see any light gun based games, or Space Harrier, Outrun, Hang On, Afterburner, G-Lock, Thunderblade, Galaxy Force, Super Monaco GP, Virtual Racing, or Daytona USA. All of these games would have been installed on their own special hardware, and since you wouldn't play them on an Astro City cabinet, I wouldn't expect to see them here. What do I expect to see here? Here are my top picks of games that I think you're likely going to see. Making use of that 6-button controller, it makes sense that SEGA Toys will include more fighting games than just Virtua Fighter, so I'd expect to see Virtua Fighter 2, Last Bronx, Fighting Vipers, or Burning Rival. Virtua Striker was a popular soccer game series, and I think it's likely we'll see at least one entry from that series on here. Compile's Puyo Puyo IP is actually owned by SEGA, so I think Puyo Puyo will definitely show up. It's on everything else, it might as well be on here. Arabian Fight is a weird beat 'em up by SEGA that never got a home release. I think it'll be here too. Riot City is another strange beat 'em up developed by Westone and published by SEGA that would be right at home on the Astro City Mini. I think we can pretty much guarantee that this will have Cotton Fantastic Night Dreams. People really love this game and it fits in perfectly with the aesthetic of the Astro City cabinet. Bonanza Brothers is also really likely. They've already included puzzle and action, so it makes sense to include the original arcade version of Bonanza Brothers too. I think Wrestle War is a good bet. You're definitely gonna see the original Shinobi, and you're probably gonna see the sequel, Shadow Dancer too. eSWAT is also a good bet. The Genesis version's been ported bunches of times, but the arcade game is actually completely different, and this would be a chance for it to finally shine. A couple of underrated classics worth including would be Crackdown and the criminally overlooked Gain Ground. The Mega Drive versions of both of these games have emerged in recent years, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it here. Here's an arcade flyer showing Scramble Spirits for the SEGA Astro City. Guess what overhead shooter I think is going to be on here for sure? Scramble Spirits. Bullet is an overhead run and gun that fits right in with Alien Syndrome, and as far as I know it's never gotten a home port, so it's perfect here. I think the original arcade version of Action Fighter is a good match for this console. I also think that Alex Kidd The Lost Stars would be absolutely perfect here. A lot of people remember the horrendous Master System port, but that arcade game it's based on is actually pretty cool, except for those awful screams. So those are the 20 or so games that I think will be on the Astro City Mini, for sure. However, that still leaves 6 more games unaccounted for, and you know what? Since Astro City cabinets weren't just made to hold Sega games, I think that there's a good chance that we'll see games from other developers included here as well. Will Capcom get involved? Konami? I think probably, which opens the doors too wide for any further rational speculation. Well, that's gonna do it for our summary of the Astro City Arcade. Like I said, it's not being made by M2 or Sega, so I have no idea how good this thing is really gonna be, but the concept is phenomenal. So what do you guys think about this thing? What do you think about our game predictions? And will you be ordering one of these from Amazon Japan?
Because we doubt it's coming to the United States.
True. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we hope you have a good week.